When you have a teammate like PG who's from here and getting booed here, do you guys feed off of that or do you ignore it? How do you deal with that?
I personally don't. I think it's a bunch of bullshit, but...
See the shots that I took, wet like I'm booked.
You jump sides on me, now you about to meet Westbrook.
I been Steph Curry with the shot, been cooking with the sauce, Chef Curry with the pot, boy.
Shot towns, B-rolls, moving the next BK.
Booming out in South Gwinnett like Lou Will, 6 man like Lou Will.
I be ballin' like my nigga Mo.
What the does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
You're welcome.
What the is he talking about?
Hey everybody, this is Brandon Orlowski. Thanks for tuning back into Basketbool, the podcast. This is episode 5, the first episode of the new year. Thank you all for tuning in once again. I don't know if I just said that. My brain is kind of frazzled right now because, you know, we have been off for about 2 weeks. We've been doing holiday things with family and friends. For New Year's, maybe getting a little intoxicated, but that's beside the point. I guess we're still in recovery mode, trying to get back up to speed, just like everybody else. Everybody else was doing the same thing, and now everybody's back to work, basically. And while I don't consider this necessarily work, I definitely have to put forth more effort than usual when I have off time, downtime, whatever. But yeah, we're back, and the NBA hasn't stopped, and it's time to jump back into it. I was gonna talk a little bit about I was maybe gonna jump on here and talk a little bit about the Christmas games that happened. Closer to Christmas after they were over. But I think the ship has sailed on that. Recap: all the games were pretty good. Usually there's some duds on Christmas that, you know, you don't know why the teams are playing in the first place. Like the first game was Milwaukee Bucks against New York Knicks. Now the Bucks deserve to be there, but the Knicks are garbage, and the only reason that they're on TV is because they're the number one market, and the Knicks are a historic franchise. It's the lights of Madison Square Garden at noon, and you know I get that, but if you want to put forth a product that people want to watch, you should have had the Bucks play a better team. Now, the schedules are made for these things before the season, but before the season, we knew that the Knicks were going to be trash. So it would have been better for the Bucks to play, you know, another Eastern Conference powerhouse. The Raptors didn't play. Who doesn't want to watch Kawhi Leonard? Serge Ibaka, they're one of the best teams in the East. I think they still might be the top team in the East. But no, we gotta have everybody in Madison Square Garden on Christmas Day. But then after that it was OKC Rockets. That was a really good game as well. Harden versus Westbrook, and Paul George, of course. Rockets ended up winning that one. After that, it was 76ers Celtics. Celtics came out on top. The Lakers took on the Golden State Warriors. Lakers ended up winning. Lakers ended up winning big, actually, despite LeBron suffering an injury about halfway through the game. To this day, he's still out, but shouldn't be an issue going forward long term. And then the final game was I believe it was the Trailblazers and the Jazz. And I was too busy to watch that one. I wasn't busy. I was too fucking tired to watch that one. Christmas Day, I wasn't busy at all, so that's already a goddamn lie. But anyway, Trailblazers and Jazz on Christmas. Let me look up that score for you. Not like you care or anything. It's almost 2 weeks later. But the Jazz ended up clobbering them, and the Jazz have a really good team this year. Trailblazers do actually as well. Damian Lillard, of course, has been a star since he got drafted. CJ McCollum, of course, even though he's been linked as possible trade bait to get a superstar for their playoff run, but you know he's a nice complimentary piece to have on the team if you want to keep him around or use him to get somebody better. That's up to them. But yeah, also Yusuf Nurkic, excuse me. Yusuf Nurkic used to be on the Denver Nuggets. He was traded to the Trailblazers a couple years ago, and he's solidified his starting center role with that team. When was this? Was this last night? I think this is either last night or the day before, but he put up 24 points, 23 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks. That's what we call a 5 for 5 by 5. I don't know. I've only ever seen it written online because it doesn't happen so often. But yeah, so you score at least 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and then basically any stat that is measured. So steals, blocks, rebounds, assists, and points are the top 5 that are most notable and that people care about. So he did that. Yusuf Nurkic, good for him. Good for you, boy. Good for you, dog. Anyway, let's get back to the present day and the news of today. Like you heard in our cold open, Steven Adams on the Oklahoma City Thunder was being asked by a reporter if the Lakers fans at Staples Center chanting, Paul George sucks, fuck you, we don't need you. Does that ever bother the team? Does that ever bother other players? How does the star player who's being quote unquote attacked feel? And Steven Adams put it succinctly. He thinks it's a bunch of bullshit, and it is bullshit. He also went on to say that we're professionals. We got a job to do. We come here and we got to work. This is our job. This is how we make our money, and we can't base everything that we do and react emotionally to everything that fans say or do, whether it's at the game or online. And that's the mentality that everybody should have. There's always going to be people that are going to shit talk you for no reason. The Lakers fans were chanting, we don't need you and all this shit at Paul George because he re-signed with OKC in the offseason instead of returning home to California to play for the Lakers because he is from there. And I mean, it's not like the Lakers are in bad shape. I mean, you guys got LeBron fucking James. What else do you fucking need? You have LeBron James. You have Kyle Kuzma, who's coming up. Brandon Ingram, looks like he could be something special. Lonzo Ball's coming into his own. The fact that you have LeBron James on the team means that you're going to attract more players. Just because you don't get one Paul George doesn't mean that you won't get another Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard or any big guy, any big name star. There's going to be players that want to go to LA to play with LeBron, despite what Kevin Durant said. Kevin Durant, if you remember, he said that people don't want to play with LeBron because of the media circus that he brings, because of the scrutiny that the team receives, whether they're doing good or bad. He didn't say that he would hate playing with LeBron because obviously LeBron is the best player in the world right now, and everybody should want to play with LeBron and have that opportunity to win. But the distraction that comes with it, KD was saying that it's just unappealing to a lot of people, and I agree that some people like to stay out of the spotlight and keep a low profile. I don't know if Tim Duncan would ever join up with a guy like LeBron or whatever. I mean, he stayed with the Spurs for all those years, and they've brought in all their players. Through the draft or through international scouting. Spurs never really had a big free agent signing except for LaMarcus Aldridge recently, and by then Tim Duncan was on his way out, and LaMarcus Aldridge was basically being groomed to be his replacement. Not really his replacement, but the next great San Antonio big. And then they got Pau Gasol down the line, and of course they traded for Kawhi Leonard. So everything that I just said is basically bullshit. But the point that San Antonio knows how to bring in talent from a lot of different places. But what I'm saying is, not the San Antonio Spurs didn't build through free agency and attracting star players to come. The vast majority of their players came through the draft or overseas with with exceptions like LaMarcus Aldridge, and I say that because LeBron, wherever he's gone, has had players come to him and, they want to attach themselves to LeBron and to that team and to greatness. And you can't fault anybody for doing that. Whether you ring chase or whether you want to play for money, people are going to support you with whatever decision you make, and there's people who are going to be against you. Like I've said before, Carmelo Anthony playing for big money contracts, that's completely fine. Do you. Everybody wants to make as much money as possible. So you shouldn't knock a man for doing that. The fact that, during his whole dog and pony show in 2014 when he was being courted by the Chicago Bulls, the Houston Rockets, New York Knicks, of course, he said that he was stressing that he wants to play for a winner and money wasn't the main driving force, but he ends up back in New York where they were the only team that could offer him an extra $40 million. So just, you can't fake the funk. People are going to call you out and people are going to criticize you, even if you believe that it's right. So you just got to be ready for that. But yeah, if you're at a basketball game or any sports game and they're playing a guy that you could have gotten free agency, most of the time it's just a good idea to just not boo them. Just don't be a fucking prick. They made their choice. They signed a 4-year contract to not be with you. That's basically it. So, it's just kind of like if you see your ex out in public, you're just gonna stand right behind him and fucking boo him. It's just stupid. Back in Chicago, the Bulls continue to disappoint everybody who lives in the city. They probably have to be the worst team in Chicago right now, because even the White Sox have the optimism that Bryce Harper is going to come to town and save the South Side. Chicago Cubs. What other fucking Cubs are there? The Cubs, of course, they could bring in Bryce Harper as well. They could bring in other free agents. They have talent on their roster already, and they're a playoff team, usually. Chicago Bears just made the playoffs. Why do I keep saying Chicago Cubs, Chicago Bears? I'm talking about Chicago. The Bears are 12-4. They're finally in the playoffs after 8 years. The Blackhawks are a dumpster fire, that's for sure, but they definitely, I think they have more young talent in the pipeline than the Bulls do. Wow, that's fucking rough. So yeah, the Bulls are just basically praying that they get the number 1 draft pick so they can land Zion Williamson or RJ Barrett, really. But I think Zion would probably be obviously the Bulls will take whatever they can get. I mean, they need all the help that they can get at this point because they're just trying to stockpile young talent and grow a young team from the base up, because historically big free agents don't come to Chicago. The big free agents that have come to Chicago are Boozer, Pau Gasol, and Jabari Parker. And say what you want about those guys and their play individually, they didn't work out. And it's just frustrating to see because Chicago is it's the third largest market and it is a historic team, and nobody wants to come here for one reason or another, whether it's the weather, whether it's the violence, whatever. But the main reason has to be that Gar Forman and John Paxson and Jerry Reinsdorf are, for the most part, just incompetent when it comes to how to run and manage a successful NBA team. Now, you can say that Jerry Reinsdorf is in it just for the money because, he is. And, part of me doesn't want to knock him because it is a business. And if you are a businessman and a business owner, then your main goal is to make as much money as possible and to come away with a profit. That's what business is. That's the whole point. The whole point is to make a profit and to keep going and make more money and, yada, 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 you're rich at the end. Jerry Reinsdorf has accomplished that, and he is a tried and true businessman. But he doesn't care about the Bulls. He has said multiple times that he would trade all 6 Bulls championship rings for one White Sox ring, because he also owns the White Sox. Very, very, very powerful, very rich man in Chicago and in Chicago sports. And John Paxson has been with the Bulls. He was a player for them in the 90s, but he's been an executive for them since 2003, and no finals appearances, one Eastern Conference final appearance where they lost 4-1, a spotty draft record, a less than stellar free agency record. They've gone through, how many head coaches have they gone through? Scott Skiles, Vinny Del Negro, Tom Thibodeau, Fred Hoiberg, and now Jim Boylan. And I think there may have been one before Scott Skiles, but I think there was. I think there was 6. Let me look that up. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's now 2019. John Paxson has been part of the front office, well, and Gar Forman. I don't know if Gar Forman joined the team in that same year, because I say that because Forman and Paxson basically work together. They seem to make the decisions together for bringing in players and how the ship is run. They're known as Gar Pax. And usually in sports, when things aren't going the right way, when you're losing games, when you're losing money, when your attendance is dropping, when you suck, to put it succinctly, there needs to be changes made. And that usually starts first with the players. Or no, that doesn't start first with the players, my apologies. That usually starts first with the coach before the players. So they got rid of Fred Hoiberg, and they can't get rid of any of their good players because then they'll be even worse. They're not going to fire the executives, even though they should. Other teams, when the GM starts to pick, shit players and make dumb trades, then it's time for him to get the boot. If a coach is not putting up the numbers that he was supposed to, that he anticipated with the team, and he's a bust, then just like a player is a bust, you need to get rid of them too. It's not working. Like Fred Hoiberg, his record wasn't great. And I think I probably would have fired him at the end of this season if they continued this path that they're on. I just think firing him basically in like the very beginning of December, a month or two into the season, was just very harsh and unfair. Because he never got a full shot. All of his players were injured pretty much the whole time. Whether it was Zach LaVine or Markkanen or Dunn, they weren't equipped to run the kind of offense that Hoiberg wanted and to run it effectively. He might have been able to, draw up plays for the guys that he had, and it could have worked. But obviously, if you have Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen on your team, then it's going to work better. And he didn't have that luxury. So he got the boot because Gar Forman, more so, just wanted to flash how big his dick was. So the Bulls are currently in 13th place in the Eastern Conference with 10 wins and how many losses? See, I don't even want to fucking look because I just know it's going to be ugly. Bulls are 10-28. They are not in the running for the number 1 pick at the moment, but they could definitely slide back down in the standings. That would be in their best interest, definitely. Obviously, if you're a player on that team, you want to win and, boost your morale and all this shit. But if you're the executives or the higher ups, you might want that pick. So Bulls actually got in trouble last year for sitting some players, but what are you gonna do? Everybody tries to tank sometimes. The Suns are doing it. The Cavs are doing it. That's the way of the NBA. I mean, if you're gonna be a middle of the road team, then you're gonna be a middle of the road team forever. That's just how it is. You're gonna be stuck in NBA hell. You're not gonna be able to get a good enough draft pick to land a star player, a star prospect. You'll be able to draft a player who's good enough to be, a rotational guy probably in the middle of the draft. You're not going to get any better, probably not going to get any worse, but it's just rough because the Bulls have been there recently. Bulls have been there in the recent past. So Jim Boylan, head coach of the Chicago Bulls, I don't know what you're doing with Jabari Parker. I don't know why he's rotting on the bench. Obviously, I know we're trying to trade him, and if we could get any kind of sizable return coming back our way, whether it be a decent draft pick or maybe some kind of young player who hasn't panned out for that team but maybe could with us, something. I know that that's being talked about and it probably will happen, but I think you're just handling the situation poorly. I know he's never going to hear this. I don't know why I'm talking directly to him, but in the game a couple days ago, all the active players played, in some form or another, except for Jabari, and he's making $20 million. He is the highest paid player on the team this year. And they're just choosing not to play him because he doesn't fit. Well, everybody knew he didn't fucking fit when you signed him. He's a power forward, and that's how his game translates in the NBA. He's a 4. So they tried to put him at the 3, and it didn't work because he's 6'8", 250, and he's kind of doughy. LeBron is 6'8", 250, but he's jacked. And he's also LeBron James. So that's, what are you going to do? So the Jabari experiment didn't work, but it's not like your guys are playing for anything this year. I mean, he'll put up your numbers and he'll put up numbers and give you buckets. So you might win games. You might win a couple games if he's in the lineup, but in the long run, it's probably not gonna do a whole lot. And it's not so much that he's not playing. Even if you gave him some minutes, I think it would be a little less egregious of an act. And I only say that because you are sending by Jim Boylan doing this, he is sending the wrong message to free agents and even potential draft picks that if you come to Chicago, you might get a contract and everything might seem like it's going your way, but at the end of the day, basketball players want to play. They want to be out there. There's a bunch of ways to make money. Obviously not like the NBA, but these guys worked for 15 straight years of just fucking grinding, not knowing if they would make it. If they would make it in the NBA, if they would make it in college, if they would get injured. But they fucking did it because they love it. It's just their thing. So when you give a guy $20 million to sit on the bench, you might think that, oh, Jesus, I'd love to do that. And yes, everybody would. But Jabari Parker, the kind of guy that he is, he wants to be out there. He needs to be on the court. That's his life. Like LeBron always says, it's more than a game. It's a way of life. It's a hobby. It's a lifestyle. It's a job. It's a passion. So, all in all, Jim Boylan, get your fucking shit together. Garpax, either do something or get the fuck out. Jerry Reinsdorf, give complete control of the fucking team to your son if he truly does care about the Bulls. And, you can do whatever you want with your White Sox, And it's not like between the TV fucking deal and all the money that the Bulls bring in. Despite them being shit, they still remain at the top of the standings, standings, leaderboards, whatever, top of the fucking list for attendance in the NBA. Bulls fans always show out. Cubs fans show out. Bears fans show out. Hawks fans, I think the majority of Blackhawks fans, I don't know about the majority, but there's definitely a lot of bandwagon people who just go to the games just to be there. But that's with everybody when the team is good, and Blackhawks are on the downward spiral right now, so we'll see if they resort back to 1,500 people in attendance like they did like they had 15, 20 years ago. Which you have to give credit to Stan Bowman and those guys for being good executives and marketing their team and developing these young players that they bring in. Taves, Kane, they made trades, they signed people. Chicago was a desirable destination now. After all those years of just being bad and being irrelevant. Being irrelevant in the city of Chicago. The Bulls need to do that before they suffer the same fate. One more thing before we get out of here, because I got other prior engagements to get to. I wanted to crank one of these out. First podcast of the new year to get back to you guys. I know it's been a while. Andrew Wiggins. He is the former number 1 overall pick, I believe, from the 2014 draft. He was drafted by the Cavaliers and then traded to Minnesota for Kevin Love to get LeBron a more solidified big man to be on his homecoming roster. And I would say that he while he hasn't lived up to the hype that was created around him, he was labeled as the greatest Canadian player to come out of college probably ever. And when he was at Kansas, he was a fucking force. There was no doubt in my mind that he was going to be the number 1 overall. Jabari Parker was in that draft as well when he was at Duke. Joel Embiid could have gone number 1, but he was dealing with the injury issues that kept him sidelined on the Sixers for 2 years. But anyway, Wiggins was probably the clear runaway number 1 at the time throughout the season most consistently. And he went to the Timberwolves and he put up his numbers and he did his thing as a rookie, made the all-rookie first team. He was doing everything right. He seemed to be everything that he was advertised as, because you don't expect a whole lot from rookies. You shouldn't, except if they're a generational type guy like LeBron or Kevin Durant or something like that. Andrew Wiggins was, he was sort of teased at maybe becoming a LeBron someday, like that kind of dominant fucking force. And so far, it hasn't really gotten to that point. The thing about Wiggins is that he's very, very consistent and he's very reliable when it comes to being healthy and available and ready to go. 3 of his first 4 seasons, he's played and started in all 82 games. In 2015-16, he played 81. And I think this year so far, he's played 33 out of 37 games. So he is reliable in terms of, durability. Now, he is a scoring machine. That's no question. 2016-17, he put up 23 and a half a game. Before that, 20.7, his rookie year, 17. And then last year, he put up 17.7. Now, he also had Jimmy Butler on the team to take away some opportunities. But the year before that, he had 23.6, 23 and a half, whatever. And he was playing with Karl-Anthony Towns, who is also a big name number 1 draft pick. Now, obviously, Jimmy Butler had his issues with Cat and Wiggins for being soft or whatever language you want to assign to that. But Andrew Wiggins, he'll put up the shots and he'll get the numbers, but he's not very efficient. That's the thing. He's not very efficient. There are going to be nights where he's going to average throughout the season, 15, 20 points. But there's going to be nights where he puts up goose eggs. There's going to be nights where he doesn't really have any kind of effect. And, that everybody has a bad game. I shouldn't say everybody because, even LeBron will score 15 on a bad night. But the thing about Wiggins is when it was time for him to sign a new deal after his rookie contract was up, the Timberwolves gave him a 5-year, $148 million extension. Despite not really accomplishing anything besides showing that you're able to score. The Timberwolves with him have not been a perennial playoff contender, and they're not one right now with I shouldn't say that. I mean, they're not a force in the West. And when you have guys like Wiggins and Cat, and last year when they had Jimmy Butler, you would think that in a perfect world that team would be unstoppable. Between Wiggins' offense, Jimmy's ability to be a two-way player, a two-way wing, and Karl-Anthony Towns playing center down low, putting up Defensive Player of the Year candidate numbers, and also showcasing a very versatile and deadly offensive game. The pieces they're just not clicking, and they're not clicking for Wiggins especially, and I don't understand why. I don't know if it's Tom Thibodeau. I don't know if it's his confidence. I don't know if it's just the team vibe in general, or if it's just his game hasn't or might not completely adjust to the NBA on a consistent level. Like I said, he's going to put up numbers, he's going to score, but there's going to be nights where he doesn't do anything. Wiggins had a game this year against the Bulls, nonetheless, that the Timberwolves ended up winning. But Wiggins went 0 for 12 on jump shots and field goal attempts, so 0 points. He had 1 rebound, 1 assist, no steals, no blocks, no free throw attempts in 28 minutes of play. He's a starter. He is supposed to be a franchise cornerstone, and for that game, he made $311,000. Nice country. Oh, Jesus. Could you imagine? Could you imagine living that kind of existence? You go to work and you fucking suck balls and you just suck the fattest of fat ones and you get a check for fucking $300,000. I got to talk to Andrew Wiggins, his agent. But yeah, hopefully Andrew Wiggins can get it together because I really do like his game when he's on. But that's the thing. He has to do it consistently, and he has to take the Wolves to the next step along with Karl-Anthony Towns because they should be the leaders on that team. All right, it's 1:00 and I gotta run, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate you guys coming back for the second year in a row. Haha. Yeah, I hate myself for that one too. But you can follow us on social media. It's at Basketbool Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Twitter is at Basketboolin. You can find me on social media at Brandon Orlowski across all platforms. And make sure to subscribe on iTunes, on YouTube, and SoundCloud. You can find all the links on the social media pages. And once again, I'm Brandon Orlowski. Thanks for listening to the Basketbool Podcast. We'll be back next time with episode 6.
Take that for data.